If you're really struggling with consistency on your one-handed backhand, then this video is going to help you a lot, because I'm going to explain the key things that you need to work on and focus on if you want to develop a more consistent one-handed backhand. Hopefully you find it beneficial. If you do, it'd be great if you could give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel before, it's always much appreciated if you could do that as well. The first thing that you need to understand is that being more consistent on your one-handed backhand is a mindset. It starts before you even get out on court. You have to go to your practice sessions with the intent of being more consistent. And what that means is developing the discipline not to go for ridiculous shots. So many players make mistakes because they're just trying to hit the ball too hard, or they're trying to take a ridiculous ball on the rise and crush it down the line like Federer does, or they're trying to jump up and crush that high ball like Shapovalov does. What you've got to understand is those things are completely unrealistic for most players. We see the players on TV, it looks easy, it's definitely not. And I guess part of the blame has to fall to YouTube as well, because it seems that a lot of coaches want us to copy the way that Federer hits the ball, and we're breaking down his exact biomechanics and suggesting that we can do that. What you've got to understand is what they do is tremendously hard. You have to accept your current skill and ability level, and you have to try and play shots that are appropriate for that skill. Now, at the 5.0 level and above, power is going to be really important. At the 4.5 level, power is starting to come in, but really 4.5 level players cannot take one-handed backhands down the line on the rise. That's a much higher level shot. If they could do that, they would be playing high level tennis. So depending where you're at, if you're a lower level than that, you have to keep that in mind within your practice. Be sensible and focus on the two fundamentals that we're going to be talking about now. The first fundamental that you need to focus on is going to be your preparation and your movement to the ball, because one of the most common reasons that players miss shots is that they're just not set up in the right position. Now on the forehand, we can kind of compensate a little bit. On the two-handed backhand, we can compensate a little bit, but we don't get that luxury on the one-hander. Being in the right position is absolutely critical for consistency. So when the ball is traveling towards you, hopefully you can land the split step just after your opponent makes contact. You can read where the ball's going. You've got to make two calculations. You've got to be thinking about how close you're going to get to the ball, because if you're too close to the ball that way, you're going to get jammed. It's going to throw the biomechanics off. It's going to cause you to miss. If you're too far away from the ball, you're going to be reaching. That's going to cause you to miss. You've got to set up the right position, the right distance from the ball, so that you can use efficient biomechanics. So you have to be thinking about that. You also have to think about the height of the ball. Now, as we've already said, taking the ball on the rise, very high level skill. Taking the ball up there, much more challenging. We need to be taking the ball at around knee to waist height when it's dropping, which means you have to respect the ball that's coming towards you and either move forwards or back. So if the ball's short, you have to recognize that quickly, step in and take it from a more comfortable position. Now, a lot of players find that a little bit easier. Where players tend to go wrong is when the ball is deep, they're kind of stuck to the baseline, when what you need to do is drop back, give yourself space, allow the ball to drop. So now as it's dropping, then you can take it from this more comfortable position. And this is going to be absolutely critical, and it's something that you have to work on. You have to work on the quality of your split step, you have to work on reading the ball, you have to work on the specific footwork patterns so that you can set up the right distance from the ball. Because if you are not prepared and ready in the right position, the chances of you hitting a consistent backhand go down dramatically. To help you with the footwork side of things, I've got another video on YouTube, or a couple of videos I want you to check out. I'll place links down in the description so you can start to go through those, because now we need to look at the next fundamental. The next fundamental you need to work on to improve your consistency is going to be watching the ball as best you can through to contact. It's something that coaches have been saying since the dawn of time, because it's important. So many simple shots get missed because the player lifted their head up and they just weren't able to make good, clean contact because of it. So your job is to watch the ball coming and try and keep your head, your nose and your eyes lined up with that ball. So when the ball's down there, everything's pointing that way. As the ball bounces and comes through, now my head is starting to come around. I then swing, and ideally as the ball comes up, my nose, my head and my eyes are going to be lined up with that contact point at the moment of contact. Now, maybe you can watch it perfectly hit the strings and bounce off, maybe you can't, but having your head in this position is going to dramatically increase the likelihood of it happening. It's also one of the hardest skills in tennis. And it's hard for a couple of different reasons. The first one, it requires a tremendous amount of focus. There's a lot of stuff that we can get distracted with. We can be thinking about a technique, we can think about the score, we can think about all these different things that distract us from keeping our head still through contact, watching the ball through to contact. So that's the first thing, and you have to practice that very intentionally. You have to develop the ability to be disciplined in what you're working on. But then the other side of it is there's a lot of different visual skills that are involved in ball tracking, and the reality is that most players' visual systems don't function well enough to allow them to play the sort of tennis that they want to play. Having the sort of visual system that doesn't, or that means you don't need to wear glasses, is very different to having great quality eye movements that work well in all directions and can track fast moving objects as you're running and doing everything you do in tennis. So potentially that might be something that's going to hold you back. The good news though is that vision's actually very trainable, and to help you with that, I've created a free tennis vision starter program that's going to teach you how to train some of your eye movements so that you can track the ball more effectively. And by focusing on it within your practice, okay, I'm going to watch the ball through to contact and improving visual function, that's really going to help with this fundamental part of developing a consistent one-hander. Okay, so they're the key things for you to work on to develop a more consistent one-hander. I know you might have come here wanting to find out the latest tip or trick to crush it like Federer, but that's completely unrealistic. You've got to understand that the players that we see on TV got there because they were the best at doing the foundational stuff. They got really good at the basics, and that laid the foundations for allowing them to then develop the sort of games that we see them play. So for you to be more consistent, you have got to firstly develop that discipline, go out on court with the intent of being more consistent. Don't go for crazy shots that you know that you cannot execute on a consistent basis. Work hard on your movement and footwork. If you don't get to the ball, you can't hit it. If you're not set up in the right position, the chances of you hitting a good clean shot go down dramatically. And then of course, do everything you can to watch the ball through to contact, because that's what allows us to kind of manipulate and do what we need to do to get the cleanest contact possible.